Okay. So with that, we can call to order today's. Maybe I don't have it. This is old.
I got it from the town website.
Did I send the right one? That would be very embarrassing. Hold on.
You know what it is? It says February 5th on it, not March 5th. That's what threw me off. But it's the current agenda. It just says February 5th.
Okay.
The dates on the notice has two very different dates. The top says February 5th, 2025, and then at the bottom it says January 15th, 2025.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Is there something we have to do to update that, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne. Weigh in on that.
The one on the town website appears to be accurate.
Perfect. That was the only thing I was concerned with.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it was posted
I
accurately.
was just getting ready to look. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. So with that, we can call to order our March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Master Plan Update Committee. It is at 6:06 p.m. And do we first need to read the remote meeting instructions?
Yes.
Okay.
You would think we would all know them by now, but
I think we do. Let's do it though. Do you want me to read them?
do you want me to? I mean, it's up to you.
And it's just the second page, right?
Yes.
I can read it.
Okay.
Okay. Stop me if I'm reading the wrong thing, but remote meeting procedures. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. Am I supposed to be reading all this? Okay.
Yeah.
To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application on www.zoom.us and create an account for use on one of the call-in numbers listed on the agenda. You will need the webinar ID to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. Number one, while the board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted and with no video feed from them. Number two, during the public testimony portion of the meeting, the members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If an applicant wishes to display materials, please make the request of the chair and the email materials to board staff for sharing on screen. When stating testimony, please state your name and address for record. Number three, there is a markup function in Zoom, which will allow you to call out specific areas of presentation materials. Number four, as in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anyone who abuses use of this meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Number five, business will be handled at the times indicated on the agenda. Business not concluded in the allotted time will be tabled to the end of the meeting to allow for timely logins and remote attendance. Number six, board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second, so that it will be clear to the audience and minute takers who made motions. All votes will be taken by roll call. Number seven, when all business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn the meeting, signaling the end of the meeting and termination of the ECAT recording. All participants will be disconnected from the webinar at that time. I think that's it. Okay. So first on the agenda is the acceptance from the February 12th, 2025 meeting, since everyone had a chance to review. I have. I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Second, Devonshire.
All in favor? Gaussian, yes. You want me to call everyone out? Danielson?
Yes,
Gould?
Gould is,
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
consultant.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My bad. That's right there on the Devonshire?
Yes.
Brown?
Abstain.
Devonshire? Bentor?
Yes.
Babbitt?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Mulcahy?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And I'm sorry, I'm jotting down minutes. Who motioned and seconded that?
I did, Devonshire.
Thank you. Okay. And I think we also have to do a roll call
All right.
attendance. Annoyingly
That's my
enough.
agenda. Okay, next up is general project update and public engagement schedule update. So as I believe everyone's aware, we've had to modify our, schedule. So, Stephanie, do I turn this over to you or to Heather for update?
So I would just like to give a little explanation. It was kind of indicated in the email that went out to everybody, but after talking with Nikki and Joanne, based on capacity and timing, particularly as it relates to the 2026 budget situation and what's going on in the focus on that with the PACE group and the open houses, the meetings, and everything to make sure that folks in town are well informed on that item that's going before the town meeting in May. It made sense to push off our public engagement meetings so that people could focus on those activities. We had a conversation with the state because our state grant funding needed to be expended by the end of June. They are allowing us to expend up to 20% of the budget, and then they will extend that beyond. So we've been working with BSC on that. Fortunately, some of the funding, a small portion of the funding is coming out of my consulting budget. So that gives us a little more leeway there with the state. And we'll need to provide them with the state with a revised drawdown schedule and work through that. But that looks like that's moving forward. It took a couple of weeks to get a response, but it seems we're on the right track. We've had conversations with BSC on rescheduling, and I am going to turn it over to Heather in a minute. What the public engagement will look like. It will look different than what we originally planned. And we're really trying to figure out how we do it after town meeting. And recognizing that a couple of things. One, that there'll have been a lot of information that has been disseminated and absorbed and shared both from the town to the community and the community to the town. And some of that will be relevant to the master plan update. And that people will have spent a lot of time informing themselves. The PACE meeting last Wednesday was had over 200 people, around 200 people or more in attendance. It was really well attended. People came ahead of time to look at the poster boards with all the information and ask questions of staff and PACE members, committee members who were there. They stayed for the presentation, and then people stayed after to ask more questions. And there are additional sessions that are going on. There are coffee hours at Dunkin' Donuts with Tom Broussard and Nancy Donahue and members of the PACE committee. There was an open house Monday night. It's just a lot of activity going on. The Climate Action Plan was also moving forward on their public engagement. So we're trying to figure out how we can leverage that along with another project that we're working on. So at this time, I think I'll turn it over to Heather. If
Can I interrupt briefly? I have a question, Stephanie. If you could just remind me, I was writing down notes and I missed what you said about the grant money was due to expire from the state, and it was kind of
the end of June,
yes. And what was the state's response?
they can extend 20% of that contract amount beyond the June 30th deadline.
So they can extend 20% beyond, and does that expire?
I'm sorry? Does that have it, didn't really have an expiration date. We asked through the end of August.
Okay. And the other one thing that we forgot to do, thank you, Wayne, we need to take a roll call attendance vote pursuant to the remote meetings. So I'll go through the list, and so Dostumian present, Danielson,
Present.
Babbitt,
Present.
Devonshire,
Present.
Brown,
Present.
Defensor,
Present.
Lamb,
Present.
Mulcahy.
Present.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I can turn it over to Heather. Thank you.
All right. So in talking with Stephanie and looking at the schedule, we had our first public engagement scheduled for end of February. And with that, we've postponed it. And the project being pushed a couple of months, and not being able to do public engagement until sometime in June. In talking with Stephanie, how could we be creative about making sure that we're doing a thorough job in terms of public engagement, but also trying to be creative about, there's a lot of work that's been done. There's a lot of ongoing work happening right now related to different components of different projects. And what we've proposed is, instead of doing the first public engagement as an open house, which would be kind of a project introduction, as well as having different stations with different project elements and more of a general feedback from attendees, is looking at recent community engagement efforts related to other projects and seeing what those results were. So we're doing a deeper dive into more of the recent plans and studies that have occurred, and pulling information from those instead of going out to the public again and asking similar things that have already been asked. So that will put us in a better position to keep moving the project and not just stalling for 2 months while, things happen with PACE and the town meeting and all of that. And then we would have our second public engagement, which is more related to the majority of the work being done and having that action plan update actually ready to be heard, digested, and talked about. So that's where we would propose having facilitated small group discussions. So we'd have a general presentation, present our findings, present the action plan, and have small groups answer certain questions and get feedback that way so that we could then finalize the plan. So that's where we kind of left it last week when we talked with Stephanie, in terms of how we would approach the public engagement and make sure that we weren't stalling too much. We right now have billed about, I want to say 25% of the total grant. So we still have a lot of work to do to get to that. We have 75% of the grant left, so we have to kind of keep moving along, which is why we propose that solution of pulling from other recent efforts in terms of public engagement. So we're looking at being able to do that final engagement in June and then finalize the plan in July and make a presentation, probably in August sometime, maybe right at the beginning of September, depending on the board schedule at that time. So the select board schedule. So that's where we're at. I don't know if anybody has any questions related to that. We have done some stakeholder engagement, as you're aware. So there is some of that is recent on our efforts. The other kind of, well, I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions first before I jump to another kind of proposal.
This is Sahara here. I do have some questions, but I guess I want to know what the other proposal is to kind of assess whether one is more probable than the other. Because my question more or less is about, like, if you're going to, as the kids say today, suss out, and I guess go through all of the different, topics and feedback from the other projects and the other, things going on in the town. Will you, how will you determine what's important, or, for us to review, or is it something that you're going to, gather all the information, pass it along to this committee, and it's up for, the committee to determine which, I guess, area of topics are important for us to move forward with? That's more or less like what I'm trying to understand. If we're not going out there and receiving the information directly from, members of the public and our fellow residents, I would just be concerned about, or just want to understand a bit more about how we get that information now, how it looks like when it gets to us.
Sure. So we still have we still have our monthly committee meetings, and we can make those working meetings where we are taking the information that we've pulled together, we're comparing it to the progress that's been made on the master plan. We're kind of reconciling where we're at related to the different master plan goals, because we're updating all those master plan goals, and looking at the major goals of this work that's been done to date with these other plans. So, talking about the open space and recreation plan, I know that's in a draft form, but looking at those goals and seeing where they fit in to the higher level of what the master plan itself is. Looking at the hazard mitigation plan, looking at some economic development reports, MVP, housing production plan, and kind of digesting those major goals and actions and objectives within those, and pulling them based on the public engagement that was done for those that's described in the reports. There's also recordings of, like, the PACE meetings that we're going to be watching and looking at and listening to. So there's going to be a lot of information there. And that's where we're, I think we'll have a good idea of where the community stands based on all of that research. And then in June, that's where the community can say, yep, spot on, that's what we said, or no, I think we should adjust this to be that. The wrinkle in all of it is the fact that there are 2 other ongoing planning projects that have a community engagement component related to them as well. And at what point is there oversaturation in terms of competing for people's time? And their kind of opinions that they're offering. So in talking with Stephanie, the question was raised about, does it make sense to try to have all of the consultants coordinate and do one big meeting and have information presented in pieces? So it would be the climate action plan team would present whatever they have prepared to present, and BSC, as the master plan update consultant, would prepare a presentation on our efforts and, what we've arrived at and what we'd like to discuss. And then there's also a facilities update that I think Wayne might be heading from the town side, kind of. that he's involved in. And so there's public engagement that's through mass development funding source. So there's public engagement on that end with that consultant. So is there a way for the three of us to come together and still be able to get what we want or what we're seeking out of the effort, but make it so that you only have to go once, and it might be for a longer amount of time. It could be 3 or 4 hours versus coming for 3 different sessions, you know, and having it be 2 hours each. So thinking about, does it make sense to try to have some kind of workshop or charrette on maybe a Saturday morning, or, you know, and I know that's tough for a lot of people as well, but we wanted to talk about it with the group in terms of, do you think it's worth exploring? Do you think it's a non-starter? Do you want to just keep it strictly on the master plan update? And that was kind of the other approach in looking at that June public engagement effort. I know I kind of didn't really answer a whole lot of your question, but.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think if the themes are the same, people already have fatigue. So if there's a way in which you can, it's almost like a speed dating, right? The themes are going to come up in the same, and then folks are going to feel like their voices were never heard. So I think as much as you can cull the data, however we do it, and we can also explain that this is where the data came from. You know, if there's more events that are going to be had, we can say, we took your data. Maybe there's even, could we advertise a kind of tip line, right? So if folks didn't go to PACE or they didn't go to X, Y, and Z, they can actually put their thoughts in so we can gather it that way. So that kind of takes the place of having these separate meetings. Most folks right now, myself included, would rather respond to something like that than go to a meeting in which the exact same people are giving the exact same feedback for the exact same point. So I think the more you can streamline that, the better. And again, open it up. So folks, that's one of the biggest issues that we have in this town is I was never given an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. So my suggestion would be take that argument away. We provided all these different avenues, and we even gave you an opportunity to submit your opinion via this form. I think that's probably one of the better things to do, because I think if you give people an outline of what you're looking for and then you have them respond, that's sometimes the best way to get to the data.
So I wonder if that, Heather, that could be a prelude to the session, the actual in-person session.
I think, I guess I'll ask this question.
I mean, we still have the time, there's still this timing.
Right.
Constraint.
I guess the question would be, if we were to do something on the website, project website, that has opinion boxes and ask questions for people to answer, would it make sense to do a 5-minute video clip that runs through, you know, this is why this is important, this is what we're looking for, tell us what you think, and have it open for, you know, a month while everything's happening at town meeting, you know, say it's open the month of May, and then we close it and we prep for, you don't want to do it during that time at all.
We can't do it the month of May. I mean, again, we really need to be sensitive to not taking up airtime.
I'm just worried. I'm worried about, really, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks in June is all we have in order to have this finished by September at the latest. And it gets really hard in July and August, I think, with vacations and the weather and people not wanting to really be involved in it. They just kind of, it's like everybody goes on vacation at some point. And it's really hard to manage schedules then. So I always try to stay away from July and August for any kind of public engagement. After school ends, you kind of it's I think a little bit tougher. So,
or maybe we do it the opposite. I mean, I think you had a, I think it's a good idea, Beth, but maybe we do the session and then follow it up with the, like the video and the give us your opinion. So it's adding to that information that was received in the public session.
I guess that's,
And then
it still doesn't address whether it makes sense to try to do one big public engagement push
Right.
with
yeah,
the 3 different projects.
yeah.
And there are components of the climate action plan and the public surplus
Properties.
property disposition process that require that will be incorporated into the master plan because it's such a, high level plan.
So I talked briefly with Sean Dugan. He's the assistant town administrator. I think I explained that, and he is managing that process. And his contact at KLA actually asked if that was something that we could do, if they could work with us on the master plan. So I talked with him later on this afternoon. Didn't have time, but we can talk about that. And I think if we can figure that out, that is our best avenue.
Would we be promoting this with the stated purpose of trying to streamline the information and ask of the public in acknowledging the overlap of the three different agendas, kind of?
I think that would probably be useful for people so that they know that there are different plans that have different purposes, but also fit in with the larger community plan, which is the master plan.
I think it would be effective and appreciated considering everything that's going on. I do still think that there will be issues of overlap and confusion, but I guess as long as everyone is upfront from the gate on what we're trying to compel from everybody, what kind of information we're or opinions we're seeking from people and for what purposes, and acknowledging there are different purposes. I think it would be, just we've been looking at it from such a different perspective before about how to keep us separate and not confuse us with others. So, but I definitely understand. I think that's wise to kind of team up and streamline.
This is Sahara. I think if yes, we have to be mindful of the different agenda items and, you know, the end results and the end goals of what each of the different committees are, you know, mandated to accomplish and achieve. But I also do appreciate that, you know, sometimes once like a one-stop shop where you do have like, you know, three at the same time come in, you know, I think that would be okay going forward, given everything that's happening. And if it's kind of like the only other best options we have for option singular for going forward and getting this project done, I don't see, I don't see why we shouldn't. I think we just have to be mindful, again, you know, to the chair's point that we have to be open and transparent with what we're hoping to accomplish, why we're there, how we're different, but also how we're similar. And what, you know, I don't know. I would like to see it. I would like to see the plan for this kind of like spelled out rather than speculating on how it could be done. I don't know if that's even a thing possible. Because I would be uncomfortable right now with deciding on something without fully understanding what it looks like and being mindful of, like, you know, what our mandate is as this committee. So those are just my thoughts.
Thank you, Sarah. I agree. That's kind of what's going on in my head right now. I think it's got great potential. We just have to flush out how this would look.
So my immediate thought is that there are different presentations that are made by each consultant team. And the order we can figure out who makes sense to go first, who makes sense to go last, who should fall in the middle. And then for us, we would still look at doing the facilitated small group discussions. We don't want to tell the other consultants how to do their own public engagement. So if they have a different strategy or they're looking for a different approach to it, then we would break off into groups and have kind of 3 different areas related to the 3 different plans. So we would have our facilitated group discussion with questions, targeted questions that we would ask to have feedback given. And whether we break that into like that subcomponent gets broken down further into smaller working groups if there's a lot of people there. We would have our staff available to be the facilitators of those smaller groups. And then while we're doing that in one area, another group would be working with another consultant on whatever their kind of information gathering, if they're doing discussion or if they're doing kind of boards with people voting on things, however they want to structure it, they would have that same amount. You know, we do like 3 30-minute sessions. So you'd go to our session and then you'd move to the next session and then you move to the third session. And then there would be like a final wrap up at the end where we could quickly synthesize, here are the main points we heard, and kind of report back. And then the other teams would have a chance to report back. So that's why we're saying we're looking at it being, you know, a 3 to 4 hour effort to be able to do presentations, have the separate breakout areas and have qualitative, discussion there, and then come back up to kind of conclude the day.
And how would we get people there? Would we be saying like the town is planning a lot of things and needs your input, and then like kind of list who it is?
Yes, I mean we can figure out what those materials look like. I mean, it could be another one of those 2-minute video online, and you hand out a card with the link and say, you know, join us, public workshop or charrette with the date for more information to get a better sense of what this is about. Visit this site. That's probably the easiest way to explain what it really is with a short video, but.
Okay.
And that's my thoughts, and we haven't talked to the other consultants, so I don't know what they have in mind, or if, if it seems that the climate action plan consultant would probably be on board, but I don't know that anybody's broached it with the other project that's ongoing. So this is just a very rough idea of, okay, here's what we're looking at. We have to delay the public engagement. How can we best try to make up for lost time at the tail end and make sure that we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish, and trying to keep the process moving as well as we can while we're kind of in that limbo. But if you were to say to us, look, like, we want to wait, hold off on doing anything, let's do our public engagement that we had originally planned, and we'll ask for more time from the state.
We're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Because they were really pretty clear about it, that they are okay with extending that 20%, but the way their budget works and everything, they need to pay out the bulk of that money before the end of June.
Okay.
And we also want to get the project done before Stephanie leaves. So.
Yeah.
This is Tana. My question is about what the projects that we're discussing. We're talking about the master plan update committee, the climate action plan, and are we talking about open space or?
No, the open space is actually pretty much wrapped up at this point. That and there's, again, we can glean from the public engagement that they've already undertaken from that aspect. And that can help inform the master plan.
The third one is the surplus municipal properties.
Okay.
We have a grant from the state to look at DPW, police and fire on Lothrop Street, and water and fire down on Bay Road. Because of course, once the new public safety and DPW facilities are done, those will be surplus properties. There are opportunities with each site, and there are also, needs and liabilities. There's cleanup issues, demolition costs. The town has many different priorities, from financial to recreational to housing. So this is an opportunity to engage the public with what, reuse scenarios might they support at those three sites as we look towards deaccessioning or repurposing.
And we haven't had this conversation with those consultants, that
Correct.
consultant yet, and I think we need to do that.
Yeah.
I actually I think we can do this.
Any sense on
Thank
how
you
the
for that
consultants would
answer.
feel as far as the surplus municipal buildings go? Is it productive to even ask what the cons would be for them?
Oh, for the consultant team working on
Yeah.
that project? I don't know what their public engagement approach really would be.
Mm-hmm. What about their
we did-
timeline? Do they is anyone working on a timeline like ours?
They are, yeah. It's similar. They will be compressing the public engagement component into June in order to expend most of the state funds by the end of June, with a little bit of carryover and putting their designs and recommendations together into July and possibly into August. They're coming out for a site visit next Tuesday. We've had a startup meeting with them. Their contract is for 2 public workshops, one in person and the second either in person or virtual. So, we will of course be calling them in the next day or two to see if what is it? Some folks call it, Stephanie, a planapalooza, or a.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sean and I have decided not to use that term because it's too hard to say.
Okay.
Like a lullaby.
Fair enough. Sort of the omnibus planning effort to respect everyone's time and commitment.
So this is
So,
Laura. I think rather than continue to talk about whether it's a good plan or not, I think we should make the effort to outreach to see if it's even a possibility, and whether the other two consultants, it sounds like two other consultants, would be on board with this idea.
And how it would work.
And how it would work, because I don't know that we should, I mean, like, we just be going round and round talking about something, and whether we decide to move forward with it or not, and we don't have all the information, and whether or not the other two consultants would be agreeable for something like this. So
I think that that's a good point, Nikki, if we want to kind of,
Move it along.
yeah.
Yeah. So, sum it up. Good idea. We're interested in it. We want to reach out to the other consultants, what are they, commissions and consultants, and see about the feasibility before we get into any kind of decisive planning. I do think that that's probably our best and most efficient option. So, is there anything we need to do as far as a vote for that, or?
No,
Okay.
Would it be helpful to have a sense if folks are looking at a Saturday or a weekday evening? Because availability might be a consideration for the other consultant teams.
And when would this be? Did we say June?
well, that's the earliest that we can do it. And I think, as Heather's pointed out, that then you start getting into the summer months when people are taking vacations, and it's harder to, and even into September, where people are just getting the kids back in school and settled down.
I think a Saturday in June is a non-starter.
I know. I agree. June's a very busy month, but I agree. There's going to be a ton going on with the tricentennial, I believe, too, in June. So, but yeah, I would think a weekday would probably be the best option. Weekday evening.
So like a 6 to 9. I mean, this would be several hours. I mean, 4
Do you
ideally.
think 5 would turn people off because some people might be late, or?
So, Wayne, I think we're kind of getting back into the trying to litigate this here, and
Yeah, that's true.
I think we need to kind of go back and talk.
Step one, see if
Good
they're.
suggestion.
Yep. Okay.
And figure that out.
Yep. So who's going to be doing that? Who will be reaching out to?
I mean, I appreciate the asking whether Saturday was a non-starter or not, though. That's important.
Yeah.
That was an important question.
So we can reach out to the other consultants
Yes.
with the idea of a weekday, multiple hour working group session where we solicit input from the public, and see if they're amenable to that, and then we'll move forward with that. And we have our next meeting is scheduled, right? Our monthly meeting.
Yeah, we can still plan on that.
Okay. So we can expect to have a sense from the other consultants by then, and we can
Yes.
make play some plans.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm happy with that. Anyone else have anything else to add or ask? Okay. Are we prepared to adjourn for the night? Should I make a motion? Thank you, Heather, for the update. Thank you, everyone. I'll make a motion at 6:49 to adjourn.
Second, Devonshire.
Dostumian, yes. Danielson,
Yes.
Babbitt,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Defensor,
yes.
Mulcahy,
Yes.
Devonshire.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.